Hello and welcome to episode 52 of the 905er with me, Roland Hanno.
I am Joel McLeod.
And today we're just doing a bit of a follow-up on our interview from Tuesday with the Honourable Paddy Torsney, former MP for Burlington, current... I'm going to struggle with the formal title now, but the ambassador for the Interparliamentary Union at the United Nations. So it's a hellish impressive job title anyway. That's all I know. And just thinking, obviously we're the poster boys for kind of white male privilege in some ways. I mean, hopefully not too much, but us talking about International Women's Day, in some ways it's a bit of a nerve, but then we were kind of thinking like, well, actually it's kind of important that men do talk about this stuff and don't take the view that anything to do with the improvement of women's position in the workplace or violence against women or 100 other issues to do with women's place in society, that these are things that only women are allowed, or only women do talk about, because men is like, well, not my problem, when very often it is absolutely our problem, men's problem, that that it's actually men who have to solve some of these problems, not women. I mean, obviously, you and I have known Paddy for quite a long time, and I mean, yes, in some ways, something of a pioneer. I mean, even in the mid '90s, something of a pioneer for women in Parliament, even though it wasn't, many decades since the first woman had gone into Parliament. But I don't know. What do you think about the role of things like International Women's Day and in our in the current day?
I think it's ultimately a good thing, because I've always found it interesting that whenever International Women's Day comes up to highlight issues like violence against women or equity in the pay equity in the workplace, and things of that nature, it gets thrown out, but then we always get what about International Men's Day? And actually, there's an International Men's Day. It's in November.
There's actually, I'll tell you a funny story about that. Well, it's not that funny, but I'll mention it anyway. Why not? There's a comedian in Britain. I've forgotten his name, but I think he stopped doing it now. But for years and years and years on Twitter, he had a search set up. So every time a man on Twitter said, "Why isn't there an International Man's Day?" he would answer and say, "There is. It's in November."
Right.
And it's your fault you don't know that, jackass.
Well, that's the thing. And so, but what I find interesting about both days is that a lot of the solution to both problems are men. Like we were talking before we jumped on the air here. The issue of violence against women is predominantly a male issue. It's it just like either we're not able to talk about it openly or it's stereotypes or whatnot. It was it's one of those days I think we kind of need to do it just to say why are we having the same discussions and the same arguments over and over again. And the solutions I think they're just really simple to implement. The pay equity gap is just like pay a fair wage for everybody.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the last person that I wanted to be talking about on today's podcast was Piers Morgan, but he comes up in this bracket because he, to my mind, is a perfect exemplar of everything that can be, again, to use that phrase, toxic masculinity. This is the man who a few years ago drove me up the wall because he was basically implying that feminists are all ugly, and the cliches start there and they get worse. This vile sort of piece of humanity who has made a career out of ruining people's lives and having his people who worked at his newspapers chasing people around with cameras and making up stories, thinks he can sit in judgment on how women behave, and it's a bloody disgrace. And the thing that men have been traditionally very bad at is at calling out other men for this kind of behavior, and it's I think.
Well, it goes back to the school year, like where if you think about it, like you're conditioned from childhood, like you don't snitch on your friends, you don't call out. It's one of those things that like it is kind of ingrained in you since childhood that you don't do it, you don't call it out, and it it's something like you'll find yourself catching, but it's one of the things about this podcast is that not just with like International Women's Day, but like I find that the lucky thing for us being able to go and talk to people of such differing backgrounds is that it is an eye opener to actually hear from people who life experiences dealing with injustices it's kind of hard to say as a white male say, oh, it doesn't matter. You're over exaggerating. It's not as bad as you think it is. And you kind of have to sit there and say, no, take it for face value. What their experience is right. It's true. Sometimes the solution is very simple. Just call out bad, shitty behavior, and don't be afraid of fixing it. It's like this whole one notion I keep saying is people want a piece of the pie. It says it's not a pie. Like it's. Like it doesn't cost you anything to be a good person. It's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's so important. Well, this came to the forefront through Me Too, and quite rightly so. But I think it extends beyond just violence against women and sexual assault and things like that. Your first inclination should be to believe people when they say something. When they have a complaint and when they say something bad, a natural reaction, I think it's built into us in humans to an extent, but we should be better than this now. When someone says you've done something wrong or this is wrong and this is unjust, we go straight into defensive mode and we go, oh, no, you're making it up. Well, what made you think? Why would someone want to make that up? I'm going to try and remember what the story was. I think it's probably one that we can't discuss on the podcast because it would probably be very highly related to libel. But it was a story of a prominent news story where I didn't get. It was a sort of someone was saying someone else was not telling the truth about a big deal, and it's like, well, why on earth would they lie about that? Why? What is the what? If you're going to say that someone's not telling the truth, at least there is somewhat of an onus on you to explain why you think they would be lying. Believe people unless there's good reason not to, or start off with the assumption that there's good faith involved.
Well, it's true, and what I come back to, one of the things that Paddy was talking about is the need to kind of open the doors for more women into positions of power, not just in politics, but in the boardrooms, in the chair, in the kind of the back rooms a bit, because it's one of those things that it just when you add more diverse voices, your perspective changes on things, and just get a broader input in terms to solving the problems that face us. I was thinking back on after the interview with Paddy, I was thinking back on my own career, and I would have to say. I'd have to argue probably of all my bosses I've had a number of female bosses. All of them are really excellent leaders, and I'm not saying that just to be boastful but just looking back on the qualities of leadership. There was a broad sense of having to build consensus and to build a common push forward. Which was refreshing, and something that I gravitate towards immensely. I don't like the machismo or the let's just do it my way or the highway kind of attitude that a lot. I don't think gets us anywhere. We need to start breaking down some of these barriers that have, not just for women but any other like minorities, to get more people into positions of leadership in this country, because I think it'll benefit us all in the long run immensely.
Well, I think we we end up in the world is a more interesting place for being diverse, for not being run by again, looking at, I guess Canada is a descendant of the sort of British way of doing things, and it was very class based, and so not only did you have to be male, not only did you have to be white, not only you also had to have come from a particular income group, you had to have gone to a particular school. None of those were good things, and none of those have produced particularly healthy situations, to my mind. And the further we get away from that way of doing things, the better it will be.
Look at what happened here in Ontario a few weeks ago. Premier Ford tried to chastise Andrea Horwath, the leader of the opposition, by turning to her and saying, "My God, whenever you're here, it's like nails," or whenever I hear you talk, it's like nails on a chalkboard, which is incredibly sexist and just wrong. I mean, I don't agree with Andrea Horwath's policies on a number of issues, but she is the leader of the opposition. Like you just don't, it's this language and this decorum of, it's supposed to be our body of deliberation to make laws of the land. There is supposed to be a bit of reverence for what goes on there. The idea of question period, I think, has always been a very powerful and important tool of our democracy to hold our leaders to account. I know that it's turned into a bit more of theater in the last century or so, but I still believe in the principle of it. When Andrea was trying to hold to account the government's record on long-term care, on COVID vaccinations, on all this stuff, she's trying to do her job and trying to do it well. Whether or not she is, that's up for debate. But to dismiss it as, oh, it's like nails on a chalkboard, and it's like, Doug, like you went on the air and you wasted our time pimping out Tim Hortons breakfast sandwiches. Like, don't say like you don't act like you're some paragon of political virtue here, that you're above all of our misdeeds. It was an incredibly disrespectful and disgusting language from the premier towards the leader of the opposition.
Well, it's going for, I mean, like Paddy said on Tuesday, I mean, it was the worst that she faced, or she and her colleagues faced back in sort of 93, 94, 95 era, that people would make fun of your voice. Right. And it's like, that doesn't happen to men.
No.
I do think there's an interesting story to be told in some of the opposition to Justin Trudeau. Again, regardless of whether you like the guy, don't like the guy, I couldn't care less in a lot of ways. His politics are his politics, but the way that very often the right has gone after him as a pretty boy, kind of his feminine aspects are the things that seem to drive the right most wild. Right. The fact that he is trying to be kind of a bit more of a, for want of a better phrase, touchy-feely kind of male. Whether you think that's genuine or not genuine, I find it very revealing that it's well, nice hair though, Justin, and it's Justin. It's women politicians often get called by their first names, whereas it's Harper, Mulroney, Justin. Right. I mean, I think in some ways, sometimes that's an advantage for female politicians, in that I know when I was involved in a campaign with a female politician, it's like the fact that let's use the first name because it's more approachable. It kind of gets away from that stuffy politician thing, but it's also used as a way to imply you're less serious and that you're not the real deal.
Well, the fact that you have to have there's a certain way for a female politician has to run, because a female politician can't show anger over an issue. She's being hysterical, right? Despite the fact that maybe she's running because she's passionate about a topic due to either a professional interest or maybe even a personal one. Maybe like we've had people on that we've said, like, when you run for office, usually it's a personal. The first time you run is because of something personal. I want to see this change. I want to do this endeavor. And a woman isn't allowed to show that passion on the campaign trail or to stand at the microphone and say, come hell or high water, I am getting this done. Because then it's like, well, now she's hysterical. Oh my God. Like, tone it down.
I found it very, very interesting. Yeah, I found it very interesting with Hillary Clinton. Maybe she's not the best example of all sorts of things, but one of the reasons I think she ultimately failed, apart from the extraordinary circumstances in which she ran for president, was that she completely covered up. This is a woman who seems to be enormous fun, has a real sense of humor, extremely intelligent, extremely experienced, who came across as a candidate as very, very kind of cold and just didn't. The apparent warmth of her character, which I've seen subsequently, just didn't come out, and it was obviously a decision of the campaign to kind of do that, and I feel like it was a mistake. But I also feel that that's probably the traditional wisdom was like, yeah, don't look like a human being, because that's not going to play well for you, especially as a woman.
Like I don't know what it is that we are so afraid of female leaders to be, a little. No, I don't want to say eccentric. I don't want to say themselves, because I'm thinking even in the business world, female CEOs are not allowed to be like the Richard Bransons or the Elon Musks of industry. They're not allowed to come in and say, I got this revolutionary idea. I want to put it, I want to put resources behind it and bring it to market. And you would never think of a female CEO parachuting into a press conference to sell the next product or whatever. There's something there. There's something there that's just like, you know what? If there is a female CEO out there who is thinking about parachuting onto a stage to sell your company's products, I would love to hear from you. Because
it's a point, actually. I can't think of anybody.
Well, just think about it. Somebody who's like they sell the product almost through their personality, and it's very. I can't think of a single female CEO who does it. I'm sure there are plenty capable. The CEO of General Motors comes to mind. She's somebody who's turned that company around and is embracing. I think she's taking the company in the right direction by trying to embrace electric vehicles. Definitely a game changer. Would she be allowed to, would they be allowed to do a press conference where she takes their electric Humvee and goes off-roading in it and then shows up in jeans and a sports shirt to sell? I doubt it. And that to me it's not necessarily wrong. Maybe she's not comfortable with it, but it's just, like, I know there are people who are probably listening to this shaking their head like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, maybe it is, but there's a reason why Elon Musk is a billionaire and shooting rockets into space in his spare time.
Yeah. Maybe women are just too smart to go down that road.
There's that possibility too.
Elon Musk is a double-edged sword sometimes.
Well,
but no, it's a very good. It is a good point, actually. And I think maybe it comes down. Maybe again, there are other people who are not on this podcast who would have much more interesting answers to this question. But I wonder if it's that kind of. It's still that thing. Men are brought up to think of themselves. They're brought up with an expectation of being in leadership roles or public speaking, or a lot of people. I mean, someone like Richard Branson went to a posh private school. He was trained to be a leader at his school, and that's women tend overwhelmingly still to not have that expectation from the day they're born. So you have to overcome so many more things to. If you want to do that, you're going to have to struggle harder. I think it's not it's not nothing. It's why are we doing a podcast and willing to be dumb enough to put our opinions out in public?
Well, because
it doesn't come down to that
we have
kind
white
of
male confidence. I guess that's the trick there. But it's
I
would. I don't know. I think that there's a ton of work that still needs to be done. That it's it's easy to attack anyone at face value, whether for their gender or even express the color of their skin or their religious affiliation. It's a sad state of affairs that we're still just so ready to go for that easy that easy nonsense to slash somebody down. Like it's hard to look at somebody and say, I'm going to judge you on the content of your character, on the basis of your beliefs, and do they align with mine? Okay. And it's something else Paddy brought up is that it's so easy just to attack. It's really hard to build up or to have a collaborative conversation these days, partly due to social media. But I'm thinking of this is a bit of a sidebar, but we had for our Patreon supporters a private Zoom call this Monday past. One of the things we asked, like, what did you like? And a lot of people enjoyed the fact that we were able to have actual conversations. We had one Patreoner who expressed that they enjoyed our episode with Counselor Jeff Knoll because we were able to have that conversation and bring and get another viewpoint instead of just let's get on and let's give him the rope and let him hang himself and we'll pick it away. That's kind of one of the benefits of this podcast and this format is that we want to have conversations and actually get to know the person that we're talking with and get to and hear what their story is. I think I'm selling the podcast a bit, but it's something you and I have been moaned for too long in public discourse. It was just I'm going to give you 3 minutes to explain everything about you, your beliefs, your belief structure and your point of view. I'm going to give you 3 minutes or 5 minutes to do that. You can't do it.
Yeah, the elevator pitch is ultimately a lot of good ideas won't fit into an elevator ride. I mean, probably still a good idea to have your elevator pitch ready, but yeah, I mean, you ultimately you're going to get more on a long car ride than in that elevator ride. If you want to understand a subject, if you want to understand the world around you, you need more than a 30-second sound.
That and the problems facing us are a lot bigger than any one man can solve. Though that's the one thing I think is always the fallacy. It's the idea of like, oh, the lone man, or you just need the right man for the job. No. It's a team. Every huge problem that humanity has ever faced, pick one out of a hat. It has always been a team of people who have to tackle it. And we just got to get this notion of it's the self-made man, or that, the one man who's going to save the day. Get that out of your head. That doesn't happen.
And the one man.
That's the thing. It's always the one man. The one man who takes charge and gets things done. No, it's not. It's always a team. It's always a massive organization, single-handedly, like laser focused on solving the problem. And more and more, it's the ones that are highly successful are the ones that are open to diversity. So you have more women, more people of color, more minorities sitting at the table saying, how do we tackle this problem? And that's what we need for the 21st century.
Well, yeah, we've talked so much about COVID. I'm certain that things would have gone so much better with a government that was more willing to listen to people of expertise. Now, it seems like every province in Canada has kind of made a botch of this. So Ontario is not alone, although I'm wondering if they aren't maybe one of the worst. But that I'm the leader, do as I say kind of model doesn't bloody work. And a leader saying, I'm the leader, do what I say, and then not actually doing very much is an even worse combination. That strong leader model, which is very male, very kind of macho, we need to learn as a society, not to expect our politicians to pretend they're always right, because we do. Like if a politician says, you know what, 5 years ago I said this, I was dead wrong. Yeah. Someone says that, the president's going to come down on
that's the thing,
a ton of bricks. But they should absolutely be able to say that. We want them to say, I was wrong. I've changed my mind.
New piece of information. It's really opened my eyes. I need to reevaluate. I was thinking not even just COVID. I'm thinking of like climate change. I think climate change is the biggest. Once COVID-19 is put to rest, we need to focus on climate change, and that is the threat of our age. It's literally like we need to solve it, or else we are going to die. Kind of solving it,
and people are already dying. They're just not in the right parts of the world.
Well, that's the thing, but the developed nations of the world need to step up and listen to women and young people. I'm thinking of people like Greta Thunberg, who, love her or hate her, she's right. We need the next generation needs us to do this. This isn't something we can put off. But I'm thinking of Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, stepping up to just say we're gonna implement changes to curb climate change, and they're getting it done. That's the kicker, is that they're stepping up to the plate, and they're not hitting home runs, they're not hitting grand slams, but they're getting solid base hits, and they're getting the runs in. And I know this is probably a bad baseball analogy, but that's how you tackle these problems. Is that you don't have the big slugger, big macho slugger coming up and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna one thing's gonna solve it all." It doesn't work like that. It's got to be just steady work. And the more women we have around the table, the more we can, I think, find a way to build a consensus towards solving problems like this.
I would take a dirty infield hit and a stolen base right now, that's for sure, when it comes to the climate change. It's so frustrating how slow everything is to change. That has to happen. And the decades that we've lost because people are like, oh, well, I can't drive my car anymore. What the hell? I don't want to sound like I'm being that sniffy about people, but we don't have a choice. This has to happen. The science was in decades ago. It's not some big conspiracy.
The check is coming due, and we all, every man, woman, and child on this planet needs to step up and say, okay, how do we solve it? They get the new technologies in the marketplace, get the policies, carbon tax, totally, all this. We need to solve this. And ironically, again, in that regard, the people in opposition are men. I can't think of a single woman of note who has a public platform arguing, maybe on Fox News, but they don't count. Nobody on Fox News counts, just to be clear. But no politician, no industry leader, nobody, no woman is arguing, pro fossil fuel expansion, that kind of thing.
It's certainly less obvious and less prominent. I mean, obviously you can think of I can't remember her name, the delightful character who just got elected to the U.S. Senate, and is it Green or something? Can't remember her name. They were the one who thought that there's Jewish space lasers or something controlling our minds. But
I'm honestly, part of me kind of wants that to be true, just because I'm like, wow, didn't see that coming. Yeah, I agree. Like that's just that.
Kudos to the global conspiracy coming out of space later. I'm impressed, man.
Wow, way to go, guys.
Maybe they should be running the place.
I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, if you can pull that off, man. Like, I'm just taking a day off. Like that's it.
That's it. You guys
got it. You guys just wanted it more.
You got the space later.
I just wanted it more. But it's
for
the record, everyone, we are joking. Jewish space lasers do not exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a feeling in this day and age we have to clarify that for any listeners.
I know you have to. And there was also no Jewish conspiracy trying to build space lasers either.
No, but there is very much a climate change issue. But again, the more we need people of all backgrounds at that table to come up with ideas and new behaviors and whatnot.
I know people have been saying this for decades, that politics needs to change, but it really needs to change because it's holding us back. That our inability to have intelligent conversations, to do that thing of, oh, hey, of politics being a conversation where we learn from each other and we take the best ideas rather than a slanging match where we start from a position of I am not going to change my mind, you are going to give in and take my opinions. We're getting nowhere fast. How you change it, well, as I say, I don't know. I think I do know, and I think it's very much through the kinds of things that Dave Meslin talks about, and changing at the bottom and working up. And again, that's why I get so frustrated with municipal government being so stuck and toxic and vile a lot of the time. It's because we need to start with that level of government being the best that government has to offer, not the worst. If we are going to get the other levels to come into the modern age and start behaving like a modern democracy and not something from the 1650s.
You and I have commented though on this podcast that the younger generation are the key. We've talked with a number of representatives from various movements across the region, and they are impassioned and they're educated and they're articulate, and a lot of the cases just they need to step up and start running for public office. I think at the municipal level would be a great place, and just bring that idealism and that energy to kind of break the malaise and the doldrums of City Hall around the region, and just start saying like, what kind of communities do we want to live in? Greener, more equitable, more sustainable, fairer. We need their voices at the table.
Yeah, we need them now, not in 30 Absolutely. Years when they've been beaten down into cynicism and cautiousness. I would. It's funny because my traditional advice probably would have been to someone who came to me, and I've kind of said this in the past, I think, on this podcast. People say, I want to run for office, and they're pretty young. I'm like, well, you don't have the experience yet. You got to learn how it works. But it's not the age. It's not the age that's the problem. It's the reasons why you're running that are the problem. With some people, I would love to see some of the young people who've been on this podcast. So, you know what? I'm going to run for municipal office this time. I'm going to go and find people who have experience who can help me, who know how to run a campaign, and know how to raise money and all those things. But I'm going to be the candidate because I don't want to see some 50-year-old fart called Roland Tanner running again. I would be like, you're dead right.
But we need more young women of color to step up and start shaking the foundations a bit, because if there's anything I've learned in my time here on this planet is that the young women get shit done. It's a fact. If somebody who's impassioned and driven, they get stuff done, and I think we need that energy into our political system. You're right. By the time you reach 50 or 60, you're not in it for change. You're in it to maintain the status quo, or you're in it because you want to kick over somebody's. You don't like somebody in power, which is not a good reason to run. Don't run because you hate the Liberals or you hate the Conservatives or you hate the NDP. That is always the wrong reason to run. Run because you want to make your community a better place, and that's where you have young people wanting to make that change. And I hope they do. I hope a number of the people that have been on this podcast, I hope they do run someday and make that change happen.
Maybe that's something that we could back as a podcast. That as the municipal elections come up, if there's people out there who are interested in running, who have a passion for it, maybe get in touch and we could have an episode, or if we're ever allowed to go out of our houses, have a get together or something, and kind of encourage people, younger people to run, younger women, younger people generally, people of different races. Because I'm thinking back to Burlington 2018, we had a good number of women candidates, two of whom, as the new rookie councillors, came in. I can think of only one or two candidates of colour, not a large number. Yeah, it's something that should be encouraged. I think we need more younger people. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Getting in, changing the tone of what happens in city halls. And
beyond,
I think that would be a great thing
City
for
halls,
this podcast to
Park and
champion in some ways.
Parliament Hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that's where we should end it off, Roland, on that upbeat note.
The revolution starts here.
We do say that the 905 is a region that Canada needs to pay more attention to. I'm thinking
the 905 is the kingmaker in Canada. The kingmaker or queenmaker. We are a very powerful region. You need to stop.
If there's a young woman of color in Peel, I'm thinking of in particular who wants to run, they should definitely do so. And start shaking things up. Same as in Hamilton down toward Niagara. More if you're in the 905 and you're thinking about running, do it, because it's going to be one that, like, this is where the change is going to happen. And Canada won't see it coming. They will. Eventually they will, but we're not there yet, folks. Support our Patreon. All right.
Well, I think that just about wraps up for today. We're going to do a short one, and here we are at 43 minutes. So you just can't shut us up. But we really appreciate those of you who make it to the end of the podcast. But we also don't mind if sometimes you cut off a couple of minutes early. So all the best for now, and we'll be back next week.
That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns, or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.
Looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.